Disjointed Productions. Disjointed Productions.
Hey, what's shaking, everybody? What is going on? It's another Food Biz podcast or streaming and stuff. I'm doing this one. I'm setting this one up strictly. Holy shit! Does the camera look like ass? Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's see if we can fix that first, huh? Let's see. Scene 2. Is it because the light is off? Maybe. I don't know. Let's try that. We'll see what happens, man. Because quality auto. No. Okay, that actually makes a little better. The setting on my own player and everything when I'm watching, that was kind of set down. It was set lower than it was supposed to be. Okay, so let's see here. Let me get my shit ready. Figure all this stuff is what I should be doing beforehand, right? Let's see. Oh, that's the article that I wanted to look at. It was a blog from... No, I'm not going to subscribe to your shit. Okay. That was an interesting haircut there, dude. Okay. So there's a couple things that we can do here. I set up a card. Basically, I don't know if you guys see it on your thing. As far as, let's see, learn more about cars. Poll. Okay, it's a poll basically. It was like what we want to talk about because I had two things that I wanted to talk about today. Concerning the restaurant industry. If you have any other questions and stuff about the mystery diners, I guess I could probably answer some of those as well. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. Okay. Oh, my God, that's so much better. I usually drink like 4 or 5 cups of coffee in the morning, and I haven't been doing that lately because I've been doing Lyft. So I've been waking up early and everything, trying to get some of those airport runs, which has been working better over the past couple of days. Either way, so I wanted to talk. There was 2 things I wanted to talk about. One of them was this article or this blog that I wrote about how Macaroni Grill killed Ignite Restaurant Group. That one, and we'll get into that. That one is, you could find that on the Nation's Restaurant News. And you know what? As a matter of fact, because I can do this, I could post that article right over here. Because maybe, who knows? Maybe you see things differently than the way that I do, or maybe you interpreted it differently. The other one is I wanted to talk about staffing issues when it comes to the restaurant industry and what could be done about it. All right, so I don't think there's anybody. I don't know. Is there anybody even in here right now? If you're in here, feel free to say hello. I wanted to keep this different from my Twitch channel and stuff because there's a lot of things I wanted to talk about because the restaurant industry is something that it's my version of being a mechanic, is what it is. Years and years and years ago, when I was just a little kid, I always knew that I wanted to be an entertainer, right? And I always thought that all adults always knew exactly what they want to do. So if you saw somebody working at Walgreens, as a kid, I thought they must have always wanted to work at Walgreens. Why would you not do what you want to do? You know what I mean? And so when I asked my dad, years ago, I'm like, when did you know you wanted to be a mechanic? And he just kind of smiled and he's like, little shit, like I didn't want to be a mechanic. It's just that that's what I was good at, and that's what put food on the table. So that's what I did. And it was a couple of years ago. Had to have been at least six years ago, as a matter of fact. I'm working as a manager at an assistant manager over for HMS Host and Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, which is it is a very interesting job. Not that I'm like the best manager ever. I'm not. I have made quite a few mistakes in my restaurant, my food service career. But that you're handling multiple concepts, multiple units. You usually have a staff of at least 20 people, anywhere from 12 to 20 people that you're managing on a daily basis. And you have anywhere from, on a slow day, maybe 13, 14 grand, and on a busy day, that was closer to 50. So I know about the industry in that respect. So either way, it was like a Friday night, and I realized that managing restaurants is how I was my version of being a mechanic, and it wasn't what I really wanted to do. So I stepped away from it. I didn't want the responsibility anymore, and I decided I'm going to go be an actor again. That's what I trained for, and I started doing stand-up comedy and all this other stuff, which I've got about 4.5 years into that. Still an amateur, though. I'm not going to try to talk myself up here, but the thing is that even though I stepped away from the industry in a management fashion or in a leadership fashion, I guess, as far as my staff was concerned, that I still found that I still have my heart still kind of goes to the food service industry, man. I still look at things. I still work in it. I'm just not in a leadership position. But there's a lot of things that I've been noticing about how the industry has really been changing since I've been doing it. I've got over 20 years and working in the restaurant industry, so it's not that I know everything, but I know more than folks who don't work in the restaurant industry. So, which is why the hell I've been putting this on the Chef Dave thing. So anybody who might recognize me, I still get hate mail occasionally on my blog at the Chef Dave Italian Eats at blogger.com or Blogspot, I guess. Either way, so there's been some changes that I've noticed over the past 5 or 6 years, and one of the things that's always been kind of interesting when it comes to the restaurant industry, that it's always been relatively technology proof. And what I mean by that is that think about like printers. Okay, there used to be like actual print setters. That was a job that people did. Oh gosh, what was that? The 1920s, 1930s? I don't know. It was a long time ago. I was about to start pulling dates out of my ass here, but either way, when they started coming up with automated printers, these guys they smashed the machines when they were trying to be installed. I think it was at the L.A. Times. It was a newspaper in California somewhere, because they were trying to protect their jobs. That's what they did. The idea of thinking of and this has changed quite a bit, I would say, in the past 10 years, is that you're going to find yourself like a really, really good job, a good trade, and you're going to stick with that, and that's how you're going to provide for your family, right? That's what basically those were the rules are, especially if you're a guy, You're good at auto mechanics, good. You're going to do that. That's how you're going to make a living. So that way you don't, end up being broke, or you're able to provide for it, Well, certain industries, technology has a way of decimating it. Lamplighters in London, 18th century, that was an actual job. As soon as they came up with electricity, they're like, we don't need you anymore, see ya. And what had that guy been doing it for 20 years? He's like, what am I going to do now? I don't know. This is why it's important to constantly be learning new shit. If anything, if any young people out there are listening, always keep learning new shit, because you never know what you're going to need it, right? Another sip of coffee for the working man. What? God damn, that's good coffee. All right. By the way, if you would like me to promote your coffee, I would totally do it. But, freaking pay me. All right. So the restaurants, for the most part, like I said, were basically technology proof. That has definitely changed, I would say, even the past year. That has changed basically because of industries like the takeout industry. That's an actual thing now. Okay? Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, Postmates, Foodsby to a certain extent, even though that's a little bit different than those things. These are all now, you can now order from your phone and have food delivered to you from just about anywhere, basically. At this point, there's way more restaurants that do it than restaurants that don't. If you're drunk and you have Uber installed on your phone, you can get some McDonald's delivered to you at 11:30 at night. I know this because a few times I have done Uber Eats late at night. That's all anybody ever makes. You would think hopefully Denny's or something like that would get in on that and be like, yeah, we'll just start picking up. IHOP, it does it. I know that for sure. So one of the things that is done is with the new technology, they're like, hey, man, the selling point is now you can get you could really dramatically increase your takeout business, and that alone, that's kind of like that potential idea. Artists know about the idea. Artists, you all know about potential, right? You know what potential is. That means I'm not going to fucking pay you. That's exactly what it is. Okay? Potential is basically like you do a good show for me now, and then maybe down the road, if we start building up a little things, maybe I'll pay you a little bit. That is never a really good way to go. You wouldn't date somebody like that. And you're like, listen, if you pay for every meal and put up with all of my shit, maybe later I might let you do something to me. Maybe. The only people who do that is basically young men because they're teenagers and they don't know any better, or grown men who haven't bothered to learn how to date. Anyways, so on one hand, you would think that this is like a win-win situation, right? Because the restaurant's going to is going to give a piece of that ticket to whatever takeout company it is. That company pays an independent contractor that they don't really have to pay anything, really. And then hopefully they get off of tips. They'll make money off of tips as well as maybe travel for distance, or like Uber Eats, I know they do it by distance, not so much time. DoorDash does it by they give you a flat rate of either $5 to $6, depending on where you're doing it at, and then you keep 100% of your tips. So with DoorDash, it doesn't make sense if it's a small order like McDonald's because it's a waste of your time, basically. Uber Eats, not so much, as long as it's either close by or, so you can get done with it super quick, or if it's really far away so you can make some decent cash out of it. Either way. So that seems like a good idea. And then hopefully the idea is that if you, if I ordered McDonald's, on a Tuesday and I got it delivered, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll stop in on a Wednesday or Thursday, also Friday and Saturday because the food's very addictive, and then Sunday, and then you got to go to a doctor's appointment. But on the way back from that, you can pick up a McFlurry and then maybe a salad that's loaded with a shitload of sugar. Anyways, you could do all that stuff. But here's what's been happening, and I know this just from a restaurant, from my day job, and I'm not going to mention what restaurant I work at because if I do something that criticizes that particular restaurant, it's not really fair for that boss he can't really defend himself and stuff. So not that that's going to stop me from any other restaurant that in this industry. So, but what I have seen that's been happening is that most folks, they go, oh man, it's so convenient. I just be able to go, I could just order this from my phone. Click. All right. Hey, should we go there on a Wednesday? No? We'll just order it again? Okay. Click. And they're not really seeing an influx of new customers or new guests that are coming into the house or into the dining room because it's easier for them to just get the food from there. So I guess if you're thinking about doing this and you're like, how can I get people to come into the restaurant? That's a totally different question, I think. Takeout might not necessarily be the answer for that. A lot of it has to do with, as far as your house, has to do with your staff. All right, that's key. Regardless of what the bean counters say, if you don't have people or servers or even a host or anybody like that has even a smidge of personality, if they don't know how to upsell, if they don't know their menu, if they can't do the basics, man, freaking hot food out hot, cold food out cold, quick, prompt, and then everybody has a good time. And, not that they have to go up there and do a solid 10 minutes every half hour, but, in front of their tables, as far as like comedy or entertaining is what I mean, that they don't have to do that, but they still have to be personable enough where that guest says, you know what, I had a better time eating at that restaurant than I would just eating that food at home. And that's a big hurdle. That's a big hurdle. What if you don't know how to do that? What if you got a staff of 20 people that are depending on you to come up with some ideas for to get guests inside of the into their unit, into the restaurant, and you're not that type of person? A lot of it, I think, is trial and error. A lot of it is being humble, right? Being willing to make a mistake, trying something different. I can't tell you how many restaurants and how many businesses that I've seen over the years that They have one idea. That's it, and they're never going to change from it, and they're not going to. And the entire time they're wondering, how come all my staff is leaving? How come my sales are constantly going down? What's going on? Why is the world against me? What did I do? It's what you didn't do, honestly. And that's tough. That's a tough situation to be in. So the thing that might help, because I think it's such a new industry, it's a new way that they're doing business now, as far as with the takeout, the Uber Eats, and the DoorDash, and all that other good stuff, is that the pay model that they have is not sustainable. I don't think it is. And that's just a gut feeling on me from my big gut, okay? It has nothing, I have nothing, no facts to back that up. All I know is that if I had a giveaway, if it was my restaurant and my bills and my staff with their bills, it's on my shoulders, right? Because that's a sign of a freaking true manager. He gives a shit about his people. He gives even the people that he can't stand working with, he still cares whether or not they can get their rent paid, okay? If I had, for every guest that came in to the restaurant, if I had to shell out 30% out of my net profit, there is no way I would be able to stay in business. That's not possible. The only way I could stay in business is if I was funneling or laundering money for some type of criminal organization. That's the only way that you could stay in business for doing that. So if you're not getting the in-house business, then that particular model is not going to last. They're going to end eventually, I think what they'll have to do is start going down from 30%. It's anywhere from 25 to 35%. It's depending on how good the rep was when he was pushing the idea on that particular owner. 30% is fucking crazy. It doesn't cost 30% to run that app. And you're not really paying that much to the drivers. DoorDash, maybe, possibly, because they're shelling out $5 for every order. Their issue with that is they got to put a limit on how big the order is going to be or how small the order is going to be. That's the best way to put it. Because if you want to stay in business, it's like you can't be doing these $6 orders from Dairy Queen. I'm sorry. You can't. There's got to be some type of age verification, by the way, so you because teenagers are the ones that do that. Teenagers have a card, a lot of cards, a lot of parents, man, especially if it's in a well-off neighborhood. That kid has a debit card. He has a bank account. That's where he gets his allowance from, you know. And he's got a cell phone, man, so he could just order that stuff and get some French fries delivered to him and feel like a baller, I guess. I don't know. But the whole thing is that those kind of orders are going to kill DoorDash's business. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but this is what happens when I don't have a guest on the show. I should have some guests coming up. So one of the things I noticed, like at the restaurant that I work at, there are times when it gets so busy where we do get busy, and then the phones or the machines or the tablets, they're just chime in left and right because they got orders coming in. I've seen my boss and even some of the managers there, they shut the machines off so they could focus on the in-house business, which I think is a smart move. And the strangest thing happens. The phones start ringing. Yeah, and people start ordering in or doing takeout orders. So the same folks that was basically going to call and use the Uber Eats app, they are willing to come into your restaurant. Please don't think that they won't. If your food is good enough, if it's ready and it's hot by the time they get there, all they got to do is go in, pay, and then get right back out again. Trust me, they'll be fine. Mr. Nick, an old boss from back in New York City, he once told me, he's like, takeout customers are your absolute best customers. Out of all the customers that you have, even the one that comes in and orders 3 bottles of wine and gets 2 entrees, an appetizer plus 2 desserts and something to take home, your takeout customer is still your best customer because your takeout customer doesn't ask you to talk to him. He's not asking you to clean up after him. You don't have to make wash plates and stuff for him. All you got to do is make sure their food is ready when they get there. They go in, they get out, and that's it. So something to think about, right? Now, a lot of businesses really got caught with their pants down when it came to this whole takeout revolution. And that's I can't think of a better way to put it because I think takeout revolution sounds stupid, but I don't know what else we want to call it. Epidemic, that's not good because people are profiting off of this. So when I say they got caught with their pants down is that they were not ready for it. There has been a trend since I have been working, and that was I started working in 1994. So holy shit, that's a long time ago. Fuck, it's over 20 years. Over 20 years. I used to say, I got over 20 years in the business because that's easier than saying that I've got, 23, 24? I don't know. Yeah. For over a quarter of a century, I have been doing this. I wonder if I can share this. Can I? Maybe? I don't know. Yeah, let's try that. Hey, what do you know? I can't do that. Share this stuff on Facebook, son. See if we get some folks in here. And I have no idea where to post that to Reddit. I got to figure that out. All right. Guess not to Tumblr. Yep, leave it. Nobody's in here right now. Hold on one second while I am going to get some... I got to get some more coffee. One second, guys. Back in a flash.
Disjointed Productions. Disjointed Productions. Disjointed Productions.
Okay, I'm back. That's better, right? Maybe. Maybe it is for me. I don't know. Make sure this shit is back on. Hey, what do you know? Okay. I shouldn't be smoking in my apartment, but I want to kind of keep going with this. Oh, that's much better. Coffee's great. Don't you understand that the coffee is so fucking awesome, eh? You'll love it. Okay, so might as well just start from the beginning, I guess. So talking about this new takeout resurgence, basically via things like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and all that other good stuff out here for the restaurant industry. And like I was talking about, is that a lot of people got caught with their pants down. Okay, a lot of restaurants, because I've been doing this since 1994, and I've worked just about every position, front of house and a few back of house. I have way more experience in front of house than I do a back of house, by the way. And just to give you a little bit of an idea about me, so one of the things is that I've noticed is there was this big trend in a lot of industries, not just the restaurant industry, back in the 90s, is like, we got to start cutting some fat, right, out of the business. When I say that, I mean we got to start laying people off, because we got to show that the stockholders, who have never really talked to any of the employees, have nothing to do with them other than the fact that they invested some money in there. If we don't show that we're making cuts, then the stockholders are going to start dropping out, and then we're going to start losing all this money so quick. Let's start cutting employees. We got to start doing that. And there's some times, and I guess that's absolutely necessary. If you weren't smart about how you expanded, which look in a Boston market about that one. If you expand too quickly and you keep saying, oh, we got this projected growth that's going to be X amount of dollars, and then you realize that, like in the case of Boston market, that you put most of your restaurants on the wrong street corner. You were too crazy about just buying up properties as opposed to buying up smart properties. And then as a result, when those businesses start failing and folks are like, oh, wait a second, they're not going to be as profitable as they said they were going to. I'm taking my money elsewhere. I'll let it grow in another garden, which is up to them. That's absolutely right. I personally don't think that restaurants or concepts should be publicly traded. Not that I think there should be a law against it or anything like that. It's just that there's a lot of ups and downs when it comes to that business, man, and you can't always get consistent growth from that particular restaurant. Shit changes. Parts of the city change, right? Neighborhoods go up and down, and you're trying to have some consistency, and you can't do that if you're like basically cutting your nose to spite your face every single time you run into a slow season. So one of the things that they start asking the question is like, how many people do we need to work in this restaurant? Like, seriously, guys, how many people does it take how many people do we really need just to make pizzas? Do we really need those many people? Like, so we have to have at least one person in the morning to make the dough. He's there at 7 o'clock, and the rest of the guys, they come in after about, like at 11 o'clock or at 10 o'clock to open up the actual restaurant and stuff. Like, well, wait a second, hold on. Do we need a guy to make dough, or could we just buy dough and have that come? Can we just use that? I mean, that's saving money, right? We're saving money. We're supposed to be making money, aren't we? I thought that's what I was brought in here for. Yeah, you know what? That does sound like a good idea. You know what? Maybe let's try just using frozen pizza dough instead of having a guy make fresh dough. We'll still have the same amount of business. People love this place. And then slowly but surely, things start going down. So they looked at things like, do we need a host? I mean, then we have a restaurant where the price point is like $18 to $25 per person. I mean, do they really need somebody to greet them when they walk in the door? Don't we have a manager there? Guys, why are we spending this? It's little stupid conversations like that, basically. So they just start cutting away, nipping away. So the host with that poster, at least the restaurant that I started working at, that was Pizzeria Uno, 81st and Columbus. Shout out to Mr. Divian, by the way, if he's happened to be watching this. Well, the host was not only responsible for seating the guest, making sure that everybody's going where they're supposed to, as far as like what section is what. I had no idea. I double sat so many people my first night working there. One guy threatened to kill me. And either way, not only are you doing that, you also have to answer the phones and do all the takeout orders and set up deliveries. So that's a pretty busy job. At the time, I was getting paid, I think, $6 an hour for that, and I thought I was balling. Just because where I grew up in Lucerne Valley, most people are only getting started off at $4.25, maybe $4.50. So I'm like, $6, holy shit, I'm rolling in dough. I'm actually working a real adult job. Little did I know that, holy shit, everybody was making way more money than me. That's usually how it goes. I'm not that smart when it comes to cash. So, but the thing is that through that job, that's kind of where that was like your flower bed of where you were going to hopefully harvest your next server from or delivery guy from. In that case, that's what happened with me and John, my old buddy, Mr. Divian. And so it was a needed position, right? A lot of restaurants got away from that. We don't. There's certain places that are still kind of bucking against this trend. I think I applied for Pappadeaux. I think that's what the name of it is. And I knew I wasn't going to get the job just because the girl and I say girl intentionally, she was maybe 21 years old, and she was like, I don't know if you would be the great fit for here. I'm like, really? Because I got a shitload of experience that I can freaking outrun most of your staff here. But I don't know. I don't look like somebody you'd want to talk about YouTube clips with. I don't know. That's a possibility. Or they just didn't like my shitty attitude. That could have been it too. So, so they kept like, okay, where was the original point? Pappadeaux's, they actually have a host in the during the daytime. A lot of restaurants that I've been working for and I've seen for a long time, they got rid of that position almost entirely. All right. So now with this whole takeout resurgence, suddenly, holy shit, we need a host now. So they're trying to. A lot of folks are like, do we need to get this back in there? Which basically, they're going to have to undo a lot of the shit that they've been doing over the past 20 years, right? A lot of those cuts. So who's going to do it? I think it's still the idea of this takeout idea. I think it's great. I'm not shitting on it, but I think the way that it's going to be done, I think that people are going to be very successful at it. At least on the restaurant point of view, is that they have to be able to negotiate a fair cut, right? 30% is too fucking big. Oh, that was the cat. I thought somebody was knocking. Oh my, cat, you're messing with this thing. What's going on? So yeah, I think they're gonna have. I think 25% is better. 20 will be even better than that. And of course, now I'm turning into that guy where like, do we have to pay 20%? Can't we just do this with 18%? We can make our own app, guys. Why don't we just do that? I don't know. Why don't you? That would be a really good idea, don't you think? There's a lot of ways to build your own app sites, right? If you got a restaurant or a small restaurant chain, basically you got like Oregano's. I don't know why you're not doing this in Phoenix. Maybe you have already. But you create an app where people can order through the app and do takeout that way. Why the fuck are you giving away 30% to anybody else other than you when you don't absolutely positively have to? Now, Uber Eats and DoorDash, they can answer that question is because they can handle more people, more business and stuff, and they actually have access to drivers and stuff. So, but when it comes to takeout, honestly, yeah, a lot of these guys should be having their own apps. If you've got a small chain or a restaurant, it's super easy, right? Or, you know what, just pay somebody to freaking create the app for you. I guarantee you somewhere in your town where you live, there is somebody who's probably will offer to do this for you. Just don't lowball the fuck out of them, There's a time to save money and a time to spend money. Learn when to make the difference, okay? Buddy of mine, he was telling me why he doesn't like to recommend friends to his job. And he knew that they were looking for some from back house help. He had a buddy that was able to do back house, had a lot of experience in doing back house work. And they went in for the interview. The boss really liked him, but didn't really. I'm sure in his mind he was trying to pay. He was offering a fair wage, but to this guy's buddy, he was kind of like, "Why the hell would I do that?" So I don't know. There was a little hurt feelings there, where they're like, "Why do I even bother interviewing these guys? It's a waste of time." I'm like, "Yes, it is a waste of time. If you're going to offer $11 for a back of house position, then it's a waste of your fucking time. There's no reason to do that, right? If you want to actually hire somebody, you got to give them an offer that they can't refuse. That's pretty simple, right? I mean, obviously you don't want to break your own bank. I get that, and I don't know what your books look like, but at some point you're going to have to spend some money. That's what happens with a lot of places, man. That happens with my own business, Like I do in these videos, I've got another Twitch thing where I talk about other completely different other topics and stuff. And slowly but surely that's growing, and that's great and all. But at some point, I'm going to have to spend some money on promoting that. I know that. I'm just trying to kind of hold out as long as I can. Maybe that guy's doing the same thing, but I think in that case, it backfired on him. So, that's all I got to say about that. Is that a toupee? Holy shit. All right. So, my attack weenie is growling. You should probably mellow the fuck out. So if you hear barking coming from the microphone, guys, it's not me. Okay, that's enough for the cigarette there. Enough of that. All right, before we get on our next topic, Okay. The next topic that I wanted to talk about, there was this article that I came across for about a restaurant that I used to work for. And actually, I was a little miffed when I read it, just because, not so much because of the article, but they talk about two restaurants in here. One of them is Macaroni Grill. The other one is Joe's Crab Shack. And one of my coworkers that used to work at Joe's Crab Shack, and he firmly believes the Macaroni Grill is solely the reason why Ignite is so screwed right now. And they are pretty screwed right now. So this one particular, I already put up a link in the chat there. If you haven't seen it, if you're not, go to Nation's Restaurant News, or just basically Google Macaroni Grill destroys Ignite, and they'll come up with this article. It's written by Jonathan Mays. This is June 7th of 2017, and he kind of tries to break down what happened. I don't know, should I read this? Should not. It's a good article. You guys really should check it out. So I'm trying to give you a little promo there, Jonathan Mays. All right. I'll skip around. All right. This post is part of On the Margin blog. Okay. That's what that is. Has any restaurant acquisition caused as many problems as Ignite Restaurants Group Incorporated 2013 purchase of Macaroni Grill? Earlier this year, we called that deal one of the 6 worst restaurant acquisitions of all time, and for good reason. You could literally see in company financials how the Macaroni Grill deal destroyed Ignite, owner of Joe's Crab Shack and Brickhouse Tavern and Tap. This week's bankruptcy of Ignite simply completed the destruction. Ignite was modestly profitable casual dining operator when it went public in May of 2012, and in the subsequent weeks, its stock price steadily increased thanks to good performance. 2 months later, however, Ignite had to restate its financials, which in hindsight was a bad omen. The company generated $12 million in net income in 2011 and $8.7 million in net income in 2012. And profits in each of those previous 2 years. Same-store sales had grown every year from 2008 to 2012. The company had reduced its debt level to $45 million in total debt at the end of 2012. The next year, Ignite jumped on what it thought was an amazing deal, buying Macaroni Grill from Golden Gate Capital for $55 million. Just a few years earlier, the company was valued at $31.5 million. At one point, Mackerel had been a highly regarded name in the restaurant industry. That is true, man. I remember years and years ago when I wanted to go, I applied at a Macaroni Grill, and they're like, we want no less than 5 years of experience. And at that point, I didn't have it, but they set the bar really, really high on who they wanted on their floor and what kind of business that they wanted to do. So I could speak for that from personal experience. All right. Continuing on this article. Okay. Ignite felt that its operational abilities could turn the chain around. We have a history of driving operational improvements at Joe's Crab Shack. We believe we have identified significant opportunities and synergies that will leverage over the next 12 months and beyond. Ray Blanchett of Ignite CEO at the time of the sale said in a deal announcement. Okay, this is me talking. A couple of words that I freaking hate when it comes to speaking corporatese. One of them is opportunities. Opportunity is code for fuck-ups, if you guys don't know that. All right, and now you do a little bit in the restaurant industry. If you say, oh, man, we've definitely got some opportunities ahead of us, that means, well, yeah, we totally fucked up. And we have an opportunity to fix that, which is a positive way of looking at it, I guess, as long as you react positively to it and the fact that you're going to try to make the things better rather than just point out all the mistakes that other people are making, By the way, anybody could be a critic when it comes to this. I'm living proof of that. Look what I'm doing right now, making a video about how I think certain things in this industry suck. All right, but at least I'm going to try to offer a little bit of opinions and stuff. And I'm not trying to demonize the entire culprit world here, but it's going to sound like I am just because I'm a little personally invested in this particular story. All right, here's the problem. Continuing on with Jonathan Mays' article, or his blog post. Okay, here's the problem. Ignite took on new debt the year it bought Mac Grill and then refinanced with a $165 million term loan in 2014. All that debt was taken on by a company with relatively few assets. All of Joe's and Brickhouse's locations are leased, complicating store closures and giving it nothing to sell in a downturn. Ignite didn't buy any property with with the Macgrill purchase either. All of the chain's locations were leased. As such, the Macgrill deal was based entirely on Ignite's ability to turn the chain around so it could start generating profits. That didn't happen. Macgrill was an unmitigated disaster. The chain sales were falling, and Ignite's executives spent just about all their time trying to turn it around. Okay, this is me talking a little bit here because I started working in 2013 for Macaroni Grill. And because I was a restaurant manager, other restaurant managers tend to talk to me pretty candidly about the things that are fucked up. Okay? There's a lot of times when you're just an hourly associate, like I am now, you'll kind of wonder, like, what the hell's going on? Why is the boss being such a jerk? What's going on here? Why does X have to be Y? Why are we doing this? Well, if you've been in management before, you could tell sometimes it's because you got dumbass decisions coming from the top down. Okay, we just spent a good 40 minutes or a good half hour talking about the need for hosts, right, and for your takeout and all that other type of business. One of the things the few things that a host has going for it, and during daytime hours, basically your host, it's either going to be somebody who's fresh out of high school, or it's going to be like somebody's mom, right, who's basically just wants to work about 4 hours during the day. So they're not going to be making bank while they're doing this, but you're going to pay them a much higher wage than you would for your servers. Okay, your servers, for the most part, you'll probably pay anywhere between, well, whatever the minimum wage is. I think it's whatever that is, subtract like $4. That's basically what a server's going to make. One of the things that changes that I believe, as I understand it, and I could be wrong about this, that Ignite did is that they cut the amount that they were willing to pay for a host, and then what they did is that they paid the host the same wage as a server, but then now they do what they call a forced tip pool, which is, a lot of restaurants do this, by the way, because tip outs at the end of the evening are always a source of contention, and it's just basically easier to have them sign an agreement when the new hire comes on, is that we're going to take X amount out of your sales and stuff every shift, and that goes into the tip pool, which normally goes into a bartender or your busser if you have that, like on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whenever you would have bussers on, they would get a piece out of that tip pool. So what they did is that they added somebody else to the tip pool, which that being the host, which means the host who normally could have asked for anywhere from at least $4 or maybe $5 more than minimum wage, and you'd have to be a badass host to get that. But if you were going to start somebody out, let's say minimum wage is $8 or $8 something out here in Colorado, you might start them out at 10. Okay. Now what they did is from this decision is that they basically made that position absolutely undesirable for almost anybody to work. The only people who were willing to work it were people who didn't know better. Okay? How are you going to get the right kind of impression for folks coming in the door if you have somebody that's either too dumb to know they shouldn't be working there, or they've realized that that position sucks and they just stop giving a shit? Either way, that first impression does matter, especially when you're dealing with people. Okay, that was a decision, I believe, from what I understand, came from Ignite. That's how they decided to turn things around. We're going to drive sales. No, what they thought that they think they're good. This is my impression, by the way, of it. They thought that, no, I'm going to come in with a brand new fist to go up everybody's asses and just go up there and I'll make them be a puppet the way that I like. All right? We'll do that. Trust me. They've never seen when I get angry. I'm going to go and make sure I'm going to turn that business around. By the way, that's not going to be a good idea. Any manager who's ever thinking about when you're starting a new job or you get transferred to a new store, try to keep your mouth shut for at least 2 weeks while you're there. All right. If you come in with there's a new sheriff in town attitude, I guarantee you, your staff is gonna make your life so freaking miserable that you're either gonna quit or they're gonna leave. And then what are you gonna do? You get to start from scratch again. Congratulations, genius. Your anger got you in trouble again. And yes, I'm speaking from experience on that one because I've done both. Okay. Let's see, where do we leave? All right. So, quote. This comes quote from Ray Blanchett. Quote, quite frankly, I think we were a bit arrogant, end quote. Ignite CEO Ray Blanchett said during a 2013 earnings call. And that's the piece that's a little embarrassing. A lot of people lost their fucking jobs. Okay. Ignite didn't keep that chain for long. The company sold Mac Grill just 18 months after the purchase for $8 million, or 14.5% of its purchase price. But the acquisition cost Ignite much more than that. The company began taking on water in 2013. That year it lost $6.6 million. Losses ballooned to $35.5 million in 2014. Indeed, the company's losses since that ill-fated purchase have totaled $156.8 million. Holy shit, that's a lot. Add that to the $47 million loss Ignite took on the Macro purchase, and the total losses associated with that deal add up to $203.8 million. We blame those losses on Macro because once Ignite bought the chain, Joe's Crab Shack and then Brickhouse began losing customers. Joe's same-store sales, which had increased steadily for years, fell 4.9% in 2014 and another 4.5% in 2015. I take exception to that. Because I don't think somebody else's success always necessarily goes to, or contributes to somebody else's ill fortune or bad performance. I think the person's bad performance has to deal with the person's bad performance, right? I see this on a lot of like comedy shows and stuff out here in Denver, as I'm a stand-up comic. Somebody's like, "Hey man, why are you putting a show of the same time, the same place?" Or not the same place, but let's say if one person has a show in one part of town at a bar, at a brewery, and somebody else puts up another show at another brewery, maybe whether it's across a street or whether it's 5 miles away, people will still get all bitchy about it. I'm like, what, are you trying to get my people? Yeah. How many millions of people are in the city of Denver? You going to blame because I could put on a better show? That's the reason why your customers aren't going to you? Is that it? I don't buy that at all. I think that there was really, really poor decision makings and stuff. And I think one of the things that I've learned from working in the corporate restaurant industry is nobody ever takes responsibility except for the people. Like, hell, man, I had other managers and stuff that I worked with. They wouldn't take responsibility for their own mess ups. And generally speaking, you want to. When you hire folks, if I'm a CEO of the company who doesn't want to take responsibility for shit, doesn't know anything about the restaurant industry, I want to get like-minded people who are going to agree with me, all right? That's a human nature thing. That's not a money thing. And so as a result, shit falls apart. All right, continuing on. Ignite lost its NASDAQ listing and began looking for a buyer. Just when it seemed the company had potential bidders, same-store sales fell off a cliff, plunging more than 14% at Joe's in the first quarter. That's hardly a surprise. Company in survival mode often make drastic cost cuts to fix profits, which could turn off customers. That I actually will agree with. That's cutting your nose to spite your face. And that happens a lot, man. Gosh. I remember when I was working for Host, this was in the 2008, during the 2008 market crash, and everybody's all panicking and stuff, right? And by the way, the units that I managed stayed in the black that entire time. Okay? I know a lot of places didn't. A lot of people, that's kind of an unfair statement, I guess. Because in the airport, it's kind of hard not to make money. I guess some people have found a way not to do that, but our staff worked their asses off. I worked my ass off for the staff. We all friggin' pitched in. We all did a good job, and as a result, a lot of people made money. All right, but I have seen. During that time, I remember a server position at the airport at Sky Harbor, at least in Terminal 4. That's anywhere between a $44,000 to $50,000 position. That's how much you're going to make in tips. They make an insane amount of money there. The money I made as a manager, the way they would do it, I think a lot of places still do it this way, is that they give you 3/4 of the salary, put the last quarter up in terms of bonuses. Okay, so I was making, with my bonus, which the first couple of months that I worked there it had no problem making it. We just bonused out like crazy, and it was awesome because I was making about the same amount of money, sometimes a little less, sometimes a lot worse than a lot of my staff. Okay, now what happened was during that 2008 market crash, like we got to show the investors that we're strong and that we're making cutting costs here. So we're going to we're putting a freeze on all raises, and we're also cutting out all the bonuses. So now I am making significantly less than all of my staff. And the answer when we complained about it is like, you should be happy you have a job. Which, by the way, the next person who ever says that, I'm punching them in the throat and I'm taking their money and setting it on fire. I'm not fucking kidding. Okay? Now, which I'm sure somebody in the chat room will say exactly that. But either way, what that did is do you think I gave a shit about HMS Host after that? If HMS Host was a person and they came to me saying, Dave, I need help feeding my kids, I would have told the kids to their face to go fuck themselves. That's how much I didn't give a shit about that company after that. I cared about my associates. I cared the people that depended on me, right? I cared about them, the few regular customers that we had at the airport stuff. There was a lot of things like that. But as far as the company didn't give a shit about me, all right? And as a result, I didn't give a shit about them. So that's one of the things that happens. Now, when you start cutting costs and stuff, let's say if you have... if you got a restaurant that ideally, depending on how many seats are, but usually you're going to have 3 managers. You got your GM, your front of house, and back of house. Okay, so that's 10 hours a day. You want to make sure you always have at least, for the most part, a good chunk of the day you're going to have 2 managers on. Well, one of the things that they started doing is that somebody in the corporate office is like, do we need to spend money on 3 managers, guys? Do we need to spend that money? Are we throwing money away? Don't we have a right to be profitable? Guys, I think we could get rid of one of those managers and then we'll replace it with either a key. When I say a key, I mean a shift lead, which means an hourly shift position, which is somebody who is not ready to be a manager yet. They're responsible enough to open or close the restaurant. But really, that should always be a salary manager anyways. And a key is a person who is... It is a great position if you have never been a manager before. It's a great way to learn, but you do not want to do that position for any more longer than 6 months. That's it. Okay, because basically you are taking on all the responsibility with none of the influence and not nearly as enough money. All right, whether they say they're going to pay you overtime or not doesn't really matter. But so they started doing that, right? So which means it's going to be longer hours for your salary position. So and that 10 hours now turns into 11 or 12, which means that you maybe, if you got a family, you don't see your kids as much. Or you don't see your wife or your husband enough, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend, and you're tired all the time. And there's a reason why so many managers turn to drugs and alcohol or gambling, okay? It's not a coinky-dink, all right? Don't get it twisted. Don't think that it is. So when they start doing that and they start cutting things like bonuses, when your manager no longer gives a shit about the industry or about that unit, it cascades. You know, they say shit rolls downhill. That's exactly what's going to happen, all right? I can't tell you. I had a manager that I worked for. He found out that he could make more money driving for Lyft or Uber. And so guess what? He would leave early every day so that way he can drive for Lyft and Uber. And that was a GM, by the way. A general manager. That's supposed to be the guy that gives the most fucks about the restaurant, about that unit. And if he doesn't care, nobody else is either. At least not for long. Okay? All right. Let's see. All right, continuing on. Buyers withdrew their bids. Robert Merritt, who took over for Blanche in November 2015, resigned and was replaced by Jonathan Tibbis, the managing director at turnaround firm Alvarez and Marcel. Tibbis also served as CEO for Last Call Operating Company, owner of Champs at Fox and Hound, which filed for bankruptcy last year. Coincidentally, the company has also stepped in to potentially buy Ignite out of bankruptcy as Kelly Investment Group, is the same company that surprisingly bought Last Call a year ago. Kelly's offer price is $50 million. That's much less than Ignite's $133.3 million in secured debt. Without that debt, and with the bankruptcy potentially able to wipe out some bad locations, perhaps a new owner and management team could turn around Joe's Crab Shack and Brick House. Or perhaps, more to the point, the bankruptcy will clean up the mess remaining from Ignite's Macaroni Grill debacle. And that was from Jonathan Mays, who wrote that at Penton.com. Follow him on Twitter at Jonathan Mays. So, it was an interesting article, right? There's a couple things I disagree with it about, but one of the things that I got choked up watching this video on leadership, what it takes to become a leader, and that was something that I think was probably lacking in both of those companies. Okay, so it's really, really strange what I've noticed. Like there was I thought my first managing job was for Peter Piper Pizza. Stu, quit licking your beans, you creep. Sorry. That's my buddy Stu. He was sitting next to my dog. No, I'm just kidding. That was my dog. I could hear his tongue all the way over here. Yeah. Either way, there was a promotion in the company, and this was for Peter Piper Pizza. My boss, because I'm an assistant back there. By the way, my shift leads did a better job running that restaurant than I did at that point. But I'm like, oh, that's good for him, I guess, right? And he's like, no, that guy's an idiot. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, you fail upwards in this company. So if you do a shit job, chances are, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe they got dirt on you. I don't know. But that whole phrase is you fail upwards always kind of stuck with me, and I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, that's a cynical thing. But then I started seeing things around, like, I don't understand how the same guys that did a crap job running were losing money for Macaroni Grill. Like, where does it go back to? Let's say... top of the article. Okay. Was it $12 million in net income in 2011, $8.7 million in net income in 2012. So they're doing a little less, but they're still doing pretty good. $8.7 million is nothing to sneeze at, right? Well, it's been getting less and less and less, yet the same people are in charge. I don't understand how that happens. Maybe because they're their own bosses, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's their company. I guess they could do what they want with it. But if I'm fucking up producing a show, but I still want to keep the show, but I want it to succeed, but I'm the one who's screwing it up, maybe I get somebody else to go in there and do things differently. Or maybe what happens is that, like, maybe what's going on is that they did hire somebody to go in there, and that person says, hey, you're fucking up, we got to change things. And they say, screw you, I know what to do, and we're not changing shit. In that case, they're just wasting time and money. I don't understand that. I don't understand how so many bad ideas that go through. That quick serve idea the Macaroni Grill did was, I believe, in my opinion, entirely sponsored by Adderall or cocaine. That's exactly what I think it was. It's like somebody was really high as balls and went through a Fazoli's drive-through and like, hey, I got an idea how we can make some money, guys. And the reason why I say that is because I know when they set up the menu, they didn't add anything to, like, I don't know how many cooks they were going to need. They didn't add any bit of labor. They just thought they were going to get extra income coming in, and they wouldn't have to really do any work for it. Well, you're right. The guys at the top who thought of that idea did not have to do any work for it. The people, however, actually run the units had to do a lot more work for it for less money now. I don't know how that works. I don't know. I don't know how regionals could lose a shitload of managers and still keep their position. I don't get how that works. I don't understand how you could screw over all of your best front of house employees, by promising them one position, which happened to me, and then yanking it in front of out from underneath their feet 1 week before they're about to start that position, and then somehow think that that's not going to affect all your units. I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of these companies, what they need is that they need strong leadership, and sometimes ownership and leadership are two different things. I would hope that these guys would know that by now. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But that's what's going on with that. That's all I have to say about that. It's a strange world that we live in. Everything is changing, man. And these businesses, they got to change. I know. I got a feeling Macaroni Grill is trying to sell again. There's a difference between running a business in order to make profit, and then there's another way of running it so that way you could sell it to somebody else. And it's kind of strange, man. You look at some of these articles, it's like they just play like they're all playing a game. It's weird, like, all right, I'm going to try to do this business this way. Oh, it's not working. Okay, well, you buy me out. And you could do that, see if you could fix it, and then when you fuck up on that business, then I'll buy you out, and we'll just keep trading this, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And the entire time, The person who's actually waiting the tables, who's cooking the food, who's washing the plates, they're getting worked over, man. It's not right, especially because it doesn't need to be that way. There's better ways it could be done. Definitely better ways. But yeah, that is the first episode on the Chef Dave channel here. If you want to know more, I have other podcasts that I go with that I talk about when it's not about the food business. It's called the Disjointed Podcast, disjointedpod.com. It's about how you go from a 9-to-5 life to one of creativity. I talk with a lot of various artists, mostly comics, however, and how they're doing just that. Or sometimes we just shoot the breeze and stuff. So next week on Thursday, I'm going to have a burlesque dancer and promoter on the show. So we're going to talk about that whole thing, and it's going to be really interesting. Don't forget to follow at Chef Dave AZ on Twitter or at the DCPN on Twitter as well. That's other ways so that we get to know when we're going to be having the next show. Hopefully, I should be getting some chefs coming in here pretty soon. There's a couple of Skype interviews that I plan on other restaurant owners and stuff that I'd like to talk to, maybe back in Arizona or across the world. Or maybe if there's something in here where you think, man, you're completely off your mind, Dave. You don't even know what the hell you're talking about. That's entirely possible. So shoot me a question, man. Get involved in the chat if you like. You could email me at chefdaveaz@gmail.com. And if you have any questions or things like that you'd like to talk about on the show or that we could talk about, I'll do some research and stuff, and we'll get it out there, man. We will get it out there. And because I think conversations are important. I think a lot of times when these bonehead decisions come from up top, I don't think it's because they're up there just whacking off and stuff. And I think it's a perception that they're only seeing one particular part of the problem, you know. And granted, there's some guys out there that just don't only want to see their point of view, and that's it. Those aren't people that I want to help make money, you know. I don't. So there's a lot more of us out here, so we're going to have to communicate a lot more in order for things to get better. That's for certain. But other than that, man, thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoy listening to me babble on about the food biz. And I hope you guys tune in next time. So for the food biz, for Chef Dave, signing off. Bye.
Disjointed Productions.